and there were a lot of doctors up here. Just to give you the population numbers, there are 45,000 Indian American physicians in this country, not counting 15,000 students and residents. Of course, the association has 7,000 members, and that constitutes that they are the largest association of Indian Americans in the United States.
It really shouldn't surprise anyone. I mean, you just have to watch all your medical sitcoms on TV now to see that there is an Indian featured just about in all of them, especially Kal Penn, if you think about his debut on the show House. I just think now we become part of the subculture. We're part of the mainstream.
That's right.
We're no longer the outlier community. And the fact is, we have represented ourselves extremely well in medicine and in technology. So 28 years for API is a milestone. API,
as large an association as it is still small in the terms of how much influence politically they have. Now remember, all the doctors are pretty rich and they contribute to the political establishment here in Washington, D.C., but they still do it one person at a time. They do not have a political pact. And the reason I'm citing this story, Dino Tapora, he's a director of legislative affairs for API. I mean, he has written a column in India Abroad asking his own association, API, to please consider to be a political pact. A political pact is one where 1,000 members get together and give $100, and that's 100,000 pact, and that's a power in Washington, D.C.
Well, by PAC, you mean Political Action Committee.
That's right.
And political action committees typically will represent their particular viewpoint. Some people would like to call them lobbyists. We're not exactly lobbyists here. But the idea is that you represent yourself and you collectively are able to amass enough money where you can actually influence and be in a position to influence. I think this is an evolutionary process, Ramesh. You know, when we first started as Indians here across the U.S., we were trying to find each other first, and we created communities.
That's
and then from that, we developed associations and organizations looking inward at our community. We didn't participate in the political process. We didn't really try to connect ourselves in other cities very well. Well, now, 20 years later, we're finally at that cusp. We're participating in the political process. The need to participate, to address concerns specific to our community is also increasing.
That's right.
So I think this is a natural evolution point, and the sooner we can be better about doing that as a community, I think we will progress that much faster.
It is very true. By the way, folks, we have one Indian American as a governor, another one on the way, hopefully.
You're talking about Nikki Haley. She has a way to go.
And of course, there are two candidates that have won their primaries and they are running in the November election. We sincerely hope at least one of them will be successful, if not both, because we certainly want 1 or 2% representation.
Well, we have to be true to our opinions. Nikki Haley, for example, is a Republican. Bobby Jindal is also a Republican. I find that very interesting. You know, I think it's good to support the candidate who supports your viewpoint. You shouldn't just donate to them because they're Indian. However, it is nice to see that we can compete on that level. And Nikki Haley certainly has gotten her share of press.
Yes.
She has actually beaten down the odds. You know, she was embroiled in all these scandals and so forth, but she managed to come out of them pretty well.
That's right.
The only thing I think that's interesting about her and Bobby Jindal, if you look at the two of them, they both renounced their religion and went and became Christian. I guess what I'm saying is religion should no longer be something on which we make a decision about our politicians.
That's right.
I hope, just like race, we can look beyond that. I hope we can also look beyond religion, so it doesn't hang us up in these weird ways. But that said, it is a very, it's a sign of encouragement.
But we are not only going to talk about India or Indian Americans. I want to tell you a story about a company called International Flavors and Fragrances. Have you ever heard of them?
I have not.
It's a billion-dollar company, and their basic business is selling fragrances and flavors. You know, the minute you walk in McDonald's, the fries smell something. You go into the hotels, there is a particular smell. Every brand has a different smell that comes out of it. I remember you go to a casino, there are certain casinos, my God, you get into it, you smell it, you say, I am going to be lucky. I am going to win here.
Well, I think it's a proven science. I think in the Venetian and some of these Las Vegas hotels, they actually pump perfume out into the main system, their ventilation system.
So now here comes the international flavors and fragrances. They are going to pump a certain kind of fragrance in the poor housing projects, and what they are trying to do is they want to make sure that the fragrance gives you a sense of hope, a sense of well-being. Now that, I think, is a fantastic idea, isn't it?
I guess, but you know, there's always a penalty to pay, and I guess the penalty here is all of the angst that people feel while in the projects to get out and better their lives. If they're just perfectly happy living there forever, maybe you're not going to get that, you know, movement in society the way you would wish.
But you know, people are not encouraged to move out sometimes, but this fragrance is supposed to do that job. You go to temples, they burn incense, and there's a certain kind of a smell that reminds you of a certain god. You know, hey, come on. So, what I mean to say is they're on the right track. If this perfume actually pays dividends, this will be the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I do think that brand is important. I mean, we visualize logos and brands as a way of understanding, oh, this is McDonald's with the arches. Yeah. I think fragrances, people do that, but they don't necessarily think about it, right? I mean, we know a rose is a rose, or we know that certain smells carry certain meanings, but I've never even heard of a company that actually brands and markets this stuff.
Wait a second. Have you ever owned a Cadillac? Or have you ever owned a Rolls-Royce? There is a certain smell to it. In fact, Rolls-Royce received a complaint 3 years after the person had owned it. He said somehow the vehicle does not seem new, does not seem good. The new car
smell has gone away.
And you know what happened? They realized that they skimped on it. They only did 80% of the vehicle. So when the people brought in the vehicle, they re-perfumed 100% of it, and the customer was happy. Oh, I got the best Rolls-Royce. So I'm telling you that this is happening more